of the NLA, you enable us to invest in the skills and talents of our people in the areas of sports, culture, and nation building.
Chris.
Good evening, Byron. Pleasure as usual to be here. Good evening to our listeners and viewers on all the various platforms that you're joining us on.
Chris, of course, well, we expect an interesting guest. You're going to talk about that in a while, but we have a lot to talk about in our opinions here. Chris, let me start with, of course, CARICOM. The 50th meeting of CARICOM is taking place presently in St. Kitts. Yesterday was the opening ceremony. Of course, we had a lot of talk here today. I understand the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was present. I think he had meetings with the Trinidad Prime Minister and the Guyanese Prime Minister. That's what I know. But here, this meeting is called when the region has some major issues. One of security, of course, climate change, food security. There's a lot happening. You know, the question is, we know about divisions in positions by various government heads. In fact, in the opening salvo yesterday, we heard the Trinidad Prime Minister, in fact, accepting what the U.S. has been doing in the region in terms of their security operation. Venezuela, and was critical of the other governments not supporting this policy. So interesting. I mean, I'm looking forward to the end of it. I think Thursday, when there will be some statement of the order regarding what are the decisions, what are the policy positions of this meeting. What are your expectations coming out of this meeting?
You know, before I go there, I know you have agreed to talk about gender-based violence for 10 seconds,
yeah.
So talk about it for a little bit. But my thing on CARICOM, and of course, the Trinidad Prime Minister gave a speech, essentially trying to indicate that CARICOM is not a body that she believes has functioned as she ought to, how she believes it should function. Interestingly, when she finished her speech, none of the other prime ministers had anything to clap and say and give her applause, that because she is preaching divide and rule.
Yeah.
And we all know that the Trinidad Prime Minister is hoping that the Dragonfield gas thing deal comes into being, so that our economy that
that's a main interest.
Yeah, that the IMF have said is going into recession, and they're asking for devaluation. She's looking at that as an economic salvo, and she's paying close attention to the U.S. and what the U.S. is asking, so that at the end of the day, she would benefit from the Dragonfield deal. So we understand where the Trinidad Prime Minister is coming. It's a personal thing for she and her country, and you can't blame her for that. But what is disturbing is that you have a CARICOM region with all of these countries involved, and you are taking positions that are going to weaken the CARICOM in general. You could agree to disagree, nothing is wrong with that. Yeah. But the way in how she's projecting it and expressing it is trying to show that CARICOM makes no more sense, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. And of course, I don't think none of our prime minister supports that.
And she was very critical of CARICOM in her presentation anyway. But what's interesting and related only yesterday, and in fact, Mario, the Secretary of State, is there, and following his meeting with Kamala, she indicated that she'd be going to the White House on the 7th of next month.
Again, it's all pandering to the U.S.
But what's also interesting, because this is important, and I think tonight with our guests we'll be talking about fisheries and a bit more, but interesting, yesterday, President Trump gave the State of the Union address, Chris, and I was listening live. And this is what the guy says, you know, when he talks about our region and what's been taking place there. He says nobody wants to go fishing anymore. So he boasted that military strikes on alleged drug trafficking, drug smuggling boats have seriously damaged their fishing industry. He's talking about us. Yeah. Of course it's damaged our fishing industry, because if you go up the islands in St. Vincent and Lucia, the fishermen are afraid, but they are scared.
The U.S. under President Trump cares nothing about our economies.
Absolutely.
Remember, they have removed all aid from us.
Yeah.
Right? They have weaponized the various things they do, like their visas, correspondent banking. Those are things that they have weaponized.
Yeah.
They're trying to crash the CBI program.
Yeah.
So as far as they're concerned, these economies in this region, in their backyard, must be totally dependent on the U.S. and anything they do. We must not have a level of independence to forge our own way. And that is the U.S. policy, foreign policy known to us.
It's a kind of colonialism.
Right. So if you're saying they damage the fishing industry as they have done, and you don't care whether we could make money out of fishing or we could support ourselves physically to eat fish, he don't care as far as he's concerned.
And it's a big an issue with our fishing industry, and hopefully we'll.
So the bullying continues.
We'll explore this a bit later. Because I want to go back to the point you raised, that is gender-based violence, and it continues. In that few days ago, 2 days ago, we had serious violence being reported, again carried out by male. So the question is, and there's a lot of discussion on gender-based violence. The point I want to make on this, Chris, though, is that what are the role of ourselves, men and boys, in eliminating or reducing it, because we are part of the solution. We are the main culprit for carrying out these crimes against our women.
Yeah,
so there must be a major role for us in if we are going to deal with this successfully.
The major role I see, for example, and we have decided we're going to do that on this program, is mention it every week that we have a program.
Yes.
And we speak into the men.
Yeah.
Gender-based violence happening by the men is not something that we accept.
Yeah.
We're not willing to accept it as a society, and we will never stop talking about it until we get it to the point where we believe that it has been significantly reduced and our women are given the respect that they need to. I'm not saying they're not happening the other way, women abusing men as well. No abuse, that is why we call it gender-based violence.
Yes.
No abuse is acceptable. And if we stop talking about it, I think we would have failed as a society, because a societal problem is not an individual man-woman problem. The society have to come together and deal with it and say it is not acceptable.
It's unacceptable.
No form of it is acceptable.
And Chris, we have to go further with our young men in particular, boys and male. How we examine ourselves. You know, what are the causes? Why do we have this mentality? It has to change.
Yeah,
so there's a process for this to happen.
I believe we have to start in a simple way.
Yeah.
If I know you beating your wife every Monday morning, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I want to tell you about it. I want to report it to the authorities so they deal with you.
Yeah.
But I don't want you as a friend, because I don't accept that behavior.
I agree. That's what it's happening.
And you need to get help.
Yeah, but how do we? I don't want to use the word indoctrinate, but how do we guide? How do we infuse in our young men early?
It's complex, because socially we have been trained as men.
Exactly.
That as a young man growing up, that you are the aggressor. We have ego. Women who have ego, they have more emotion than us.
Yeah.
So we are the aggressors.
Yes.
But we have to. It's not about aggression to the point where you're beaten and you're in total control.
Yeah.
It's not about power control.
Yeah.
It's about working with your significant other, so that both of you all to go in a particular
and seeing
direction.
the equality, that we are equal, that there's no, you know, we think as men we are the bosses.
It's about equality. Women brings a different set of values and everything to the table than men. So women have the emotional side. We are objective on the ego side. Women bring an eye for detail that we don't have. The woman brings a lot to the table that men don't have, and it's not by accident.
The violence has to go away, Chris, and I mean,
That's
as I agreed, we'll touch on this even slightly every week, and we welcome viewers' comments on this. Chris, agriculture, and this is important, important sector, providing serious livelihood, very important for our rural economy and rural development in generally. And again, I want to go back slightly to the agricultural census, the one just completed, because it's damning. It is showing a picture that is dangerous, actually, and questions our ability to attain food security, that is nutritious food available for our community. But I want to go back to CARICOM, because one of CARICOM's mandate 5 years ago was that by 2025, they would reduce our food import bill by 25%. It hasn't happened, so they've now shifted to 2030. Recognizing that it's unattainable, it can't be achieved. So back to our situation, what is scary for us is the rate at which we are losing agricultural land. In the past 10 years, we've lost 20%. In the past 10 years, we've seen 33%, a third less farms operating. In the past 10 years, we have seen most of our farmers aging. We've seen very few young people coming in, not as much. The average age of farmers is now 50 to 70. We've seen the majority of our farmers now are part-time. So we've seen our livestock industry sector plummeted. The only bright area is the poultry sector. So we have a lot of issues here, Chris, that we're going the wrong direction. Our food import bill is continuing to rise.
Well, I mean, we know the issues, and we have known the issues for many years.
Yeah.
This government, the last government, we have known the issues. But all governments seem to want to duck on how we get agriculture to reach to a point where we can get a certain level of independence, whether it be in meat and poultry or vegetable and other production.
Yeah.
And it is disheartening to know, and we could use the fishing as an example.
Yeah.
Because it's disheartening to know that we have at our fingertips ways and men and women in our society that could give us ideas as to how to deal with agriculture and get it on a footing. Agriculture is suffering now seriously from labor shortages.
Yeah.
It's suffering seriously from using science and technology to interact with agriculture. As the last governor of the central bank, Dwight, had said, we drive up to our farm in $100,000 and $200,000 vehicle, and we come out with a cutlass and a water boot. You understand?
So
there's just no technology.
And Chris,
these are the things that we have to seriously, strategically plan.
Yeah.
And we can't be giving agriculture the paltry sums that we give it.
Doesn't make sense.
You need roads to go to farms. You need
access roads.
But
here's an example, simple thing. I think it was the past administrator that started an important project. It was called a land bank. It was experimentation where persons having agricultural lands that was not in use, they might be overseas, not present, it could be loaned into this bank where it is managed under certain conditions. Very interesting, because then the World Bank was involved. Nothing has happened since.
Yeah,
so it means that
projects are not
exactly. So it means that in the absence of a land use policy, guess what? Everything works. You do what you want to do. So we will be talking more about this sector in future programs because of the critical nature of it, particularly from a food security point of view. Chris, that's going to be important. Chris, the dry season is on. What NAGMA is predicting, and this is substantiated with the Meteorological Office, is a drought. Which means a prolonged dry season, very little rain. So they're asking for preparation. They're asking that we prepare for this. How do we prepare for this, Chris?
Well, I mean, we as individuals have to take decisions about wastage, in water in particular, and understand that when the dry season is severe to the point where it can cause drought, you won't have access to water as you normally would have when there is not a drought. So you have to pay attention as an individual and not go and wash on your vehicle with a hose running and take a bucket and do what you have to do. And similarly at home, you don't leave pipes running. If you have toilets that are leaking, put a plan in place individually at your home that could conserve water. When rain falls, if you could do rain harvesting, do some rain harvesting, whatever it is. But you have to now prepare as an individual and make your mind up that you have to make some sacrifice in how you normally would operate in a drought.
In this dry season.
Yeah.
Excellent. Chris, we'll hear more about that. Chris, we always talk about traffic. Last month we talked about 400 plus vehicles coming in. This month I hear there's another boat. What are you hearing? What are you picking up, Chris?
Well, our 260 or more vehicles landed a couple days ago,
No.
right? And when in January we would have had probably 400 plus.
Yes.
Right, so for the first 2 months of the year, January and February, we passed 500 vehicles
Yes, by
landed
far. Yes.
in Grenada. The issue becomes, and I think Prime Minister Mia Mottley has just engaged, is planning to engage in consultations
Yeah.
as to how you deal with the volume of vehicles that we're importing and where we're going to put them. That is the major, because we have constraints. We islands, we're not huge continents like Australia and so on. We have limitations.
Yeah.
And I always say, whichever government is going to be here or in power, hard decisions will have to be made. In my view, we need to limit the importation of vehicles to a certain amount every year, because the natural attrition and what is happening in vehicles going to the dump is another issue. And that is much slower than what is coming in, obviously.
Yes.
And then there's the other issue of the parking. And I believe hard decisions like, if you cannot show me where you could park a vehicle, I'm not giving you permission to license a vehicle and bring it in and buy it. Those are hard decisions we have to face us and we
But
have
we
to take.
have to make it because the level of imports is unsustainable. In
That's
other words,
correct.
you can't continue
You will put a car on the road, I won't be able to drive
to
it.
drive
I
it.
know
That's
we
the
don't have
point.
a national bus
Yeah.
transport service
and this is
to
something.
augment how we move.
And
if
Barbados
without
has
that,
this.
that's
Barbados has a national transport.
Without that, it
operation.
makes it even worse for
Worse,
us
yeah.
in how we do. We
So
don't
we need-
carpool. You know, last week
we-
I mentioned the issue about churches on a Sunday, and when
yeah.
they block up the road,
Yeah.
and emergency vehicles may want to pass, where they going?
Because I came into the city, and my new modus operandi now is if I'm coming into the city, just to stay in the city, I'm looking for a bus. It's going to be rough, but I'm taking a bus because earlier this week there was no parking. The parking lots in the city were filled.
Yeah, and that's in
So-
a riser car park.
And they had
and
both
the
of them
other,
there.
yeah.
So we have a problem. We
Well, again, it's
we've
the,
made
it's the volume of
we over the
vehicles.
capacity already.
Yeah, the volume
So it's
of
not
vehicles.
something to happen. So we have to look at alternative. Chris, that's all the time we have, unless you have anything else you want to state here.
Well, I wanted to talk a little about the Cuba situation and what's happening there and what the U.S. is doing to Cuba. And I really hope that at this CARICOM heads of government meeting,
It's addressed.
we could get a solution to get energy and oil into Cuba
Yeah.
with what the U.S. is trying to do, because they're trying to make Cuba a failed state. And the people are suffering not because they believe that they have their way and their way of
Yeah,
life, and
yeah.
we mustn't just bully people into something and
Yeah.
try to create a failed state.
Okay, a couple of things to raise it, Chris. One, I think the Canadians just announced a major humanitarian support. I think the Russia also is sending a huge tanker, and is being escorted by a battleship, I understand. But I'm hearing also that the U.S. has given the go-ahead for Venezuela to supply some oil and humanitarian grounds through businesses, not for the government. It's interesting, you know. This has been discussed. So, but I agree. But one thing, I wanted to hear, I expect in this crisis, Chris, to hear more from the friends of Cuba, not just in the region, but in Grenada.
Yeah, Central America and Latin America that Cuba have given
Yeah.
much help.
And even-
Africa is involved
Yes,
as well.
yes.
So I mean,
And even us here too, us, because we have
Yeah,
benefited so much from Cuba.
all of us need to
And
come
I've heard
together
no,
and help this
I've heard,
nation.
besides now we're hearing the Jamaican Prime Minister and the St. Kitts Prime Minister. I haven't heard our Prime Minister speak about the situation in Cuba and what we can do, how we can help. So I think it's ongoing, it's interesting. Let's see where CARICOM emerges with this in their discussions with
Absolutely.
the U.S. and how it goes. You want to say a word about our guests coming?
Yes, we have Dr. Adrian Joseph joining us, who has recently been announced as a candidate for Northeast. It's Northeast, right?
Yeah,
Under-
Northwest.
Northwest
St.
under the
George.
NNP
Yeah.
umbrella.
Yeah.
And he's coming to talk to us about his stance to go into politics, active
To go into
politics.
politics, he's already in politics.
No, well, I mean, to make a decision to go and offer himself.
Right.
So we
want
expect
to know
that-
him a bit better. Yeah,
Yes,
we want to
an
understand
interesting
this.
conversation with Dr. Joseph coming up shortly.
Viewers, stay with us. We have an interesting second segment. We'll be back shortly.
Holy natural natural spring water is a water for every occasion on the field of sports, at your workplace. Just open the bottle and savor the pure, refreshing taste. Holy Natural Spring Water is produced in Mama Can St. Andrews and is available in all sizes nationwide. To order, telephone 444-7654 or 533-7654. Holy Natural Spring Water, Grenada's purest bottled water.
My name is Liselle Walcott. I am a staff nurse at the General Hospital for the past 16 years. At the Infection Control Department, we do surveillance for communicable diseases or hospital-acquired infections. We do outbreak investigations. So any issues we have, we would investigate it, find out the cause, and we would do recommendations and interventions to all relevant departments. Thus far, with Mount Sinai, we are looking at ways of improving hand hygiene. Hand hygiene has been proven to be one of the most important practices you could do to break the chain of infection. Working along with Mount Sinai, I foresee that it will be a very good thing for us. They are looking into the products that we use, the practices that we do. Going forward, we'll be able to achieve a very high level of compliance and safety across the board for everyone.
A trip to Grenada from April 4th to the 6th, 2026. A decision you'll never regret. This isn't just any destination. It's where passion meets performance. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games, hosted at the iconic Kirani James Athletic Stadium in St. George's. Under the theme, Passion Drives Performance. The best of the Caribbean's junior athletes will compete in electrifying track and field competition. Organize now and be part of an experience like no other, where talent, passion, and perseverance come alive on the land of 100,000 jab. Feel the passion, celebrate the performance, and create memories that will last a lifetime in pure Grenada, the land of warmth, spirit, and unstoppable energy. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games.
Whenever happy to see me, nobody is strangers, one big family.
In Grenada, sports aren't just a game, they're a way of life. They teach discipline, teamwork, and resilience. They inspire the next generation to push boundaries and chase excellence. That's why the Investment Migration Agency of Grenada is proud to support sports initiatives as part of our commitment to youth and national development. When we invest in sports programs, we invest in the future. We invest in the health and well-being of our youth, and we invest in broadening Grenada's reach, proudly connecting our athletes, our talent, and our nation to a global community. Together, we all go further. The Investment Migration Agency. Unlock the possibilities.
Welcome back, viewers, and as we indicated a little earlier, our guest this evening is Dr. Tafiq Adrian Joseph. I never knew his name was Tafiq. I know him as Adrian all the years. And Adrian is an established public servant, business entrepreneur, advocate whose career spans diplomatic, governance, and national development. He has a doctorate in business administration, and of course, a bachelor and master's of science degree in management information systems and project management. Adrian, over the years, have been chief of protocol at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and of course, recently had stint in Parliament, and of course, had a lot of diplomatic and international experience. So, Adrian, you know, I know people know you. I spend a lot of time on the bio because I know at the end of the day we need to have the conversation. The first thing I want to start off with, you know, where did you get the time to do a PhD and at the same time full-time work and full-time involvement in community business and so on. You know, it's good to let young people know how you manage your time to achieve all of that. That is the first thing I was amazed at.
No, so a lot of people are not, they're not aware that I have this this academic qualification. But this was one of the benefits of the whole COVID situation. When you're home, we started this program, being at home, having nothing to do. And so I've always had this love for business. And so one day I engaged in a conversation online with a friend, a local friend, and she said, well, why don't you further your studies? And there was nowhere else to go. I have this postgrad in diplomacy. When I approached the college, they said, well, to do the PhD, it's going to be, I would need to first come there, and of course we could not travel. And so I have this love for business. So then I pivoted into business. I got engaged with this school, Kaiser University. And luckily, the advisor was someone from Trinidad.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know how the Trinidadians work, but once they get you in a conversation, you can never get out. Right? And so
I've been a company for years. So.
yeah, and so after a lengthy talk with her, we signed up for the program. It required a certain amount of residency, a certain amount of hours, and so this is how it started, and I continued after COVID.
It is an example of the discipline that you have as an individual that, and I'm going to segue into the politics now, because your discipline to achieve certain things talks to you as a person and what it is you bring. So my first question on the political side, of course, is what is it that attracted you to the politics and for you to offer yourself now full-heartedly into the system and the politics? What is the difference you feel you can make? What does Adrian bring to the mix?
My brother Chris, we've known each other for quite some time.
That's correct.
To be honest, calling you Chris, it feels like a little bit off, right? But my life has been shaped by public service for as long as I could remember. It's been shaped by service to others, even before I became a public servant. So I've always had that desire to help where I can. And so over the years, I've been doing a lot of work in the community, which may not have been seen for whatever reason. But this stage, this segment, is like a natural progression. All right, we're taking it to the level of how can we assist on a national level. And since we've announced our desire to get involved, you would not believe the amount of calls and engagement from persons throughout the trial and state, whether it's Carriacou, whether it's Grenville. And so the only question for us is, boy, are you prepared to take up this challenge? And so we felt we were at a stage now where we can make a difference, you know. As a matter of fact, I would say my team has given me some feedback, and I would say it feels like a sense of responsibility. You know, you can help on a bigger platform, on a bigger stage, and so you have a responsibility to do what you can, not only for the persons within your immediate community, but throughout the country. And so we decided to give it a shot.
Well, our politics in the islands is very tribal. It has a lot about our voters will come at a certain level to not to essentially contribute, because we don't look in the mirror and say, oh, we could help the country. It's always the other way around, how the country could help you. How do you see that as a challenge going forward as a candidate in your constituency and even wider towards the country?
I have a difficulty with the tribalism. I think it has gotten out of hand, and I think as leaders, given our position, we have a responsibility to try to stem that, to do what we can to bring our people together, to unite our people. I don't think that is being done enough. Chris, the fact about it is there are a lot of people out there who are hurting, and they will come to you not because of tribal politics, but it's because they're really in need. How do you bridge that? You know, how do you say, look, you know, you're not from the red party or the blue party or the, you know, the orange party. I am here to try to help you. So I believe as leaders, we have a responsibility to rise above the fray. And I feel like I'm not seeing enough of this at the current moment. And so that is why one of the reasons why I am here, to try to overcome that.
And I'm going to get into a specific topic here now. I don't want you to give me a general comment on the performance of this particular government. I want to go to the fishing sector and the issue that I know you have had consultations with the fishermen at various levels. And you know, we could be critical of this government and how they have handled the fishing. But from your consultations, what are you hearing from that industry? Because it's such an important industry for us in these islands.
Yeah, so the fishing sector contributes significantly to our GDP. Coincidentally, I am from a fishing village. Brother Campbell here, he knows all too well. We're closely connected to the whole Grand Mall Bay Beach area. That is the nexus of the fishing sector for the St. George's Northwest. So I live 3 minutes away from the beach, so I interact with these guys every single day whenever I decide to go down to that side. They are feeling a serious pinch. In addition to the fishermen themselves, the spin-off factor is taking a serious beating. When a fisherman comes in with a fish, he gives whatever he has to give for the export sector. When he collects that money, the lady with the shop on the beach gets a spin-off. And then she now takes it into the wider community and the economy. In addition to that, there is a community aspect, because I have this one friend, Ryan, and he takes the portion of the fish that cannot be exported, and he cooks a pot. So everybody gets together at the fish tail, right? So there's a lot of interaction and spin-off around the sector. So you would imagine that a ban on that sector for a village like Grand Mall is having a tremendous impact.
And I heard the government announce that they plan to give them some financial relief, as they did when they had burial to the farmers and so on. And they're looking at that as a form of short-term relief. But the real issue that we're not hearing about is what is the government actually doing to get the problem rectified, and how urgent they're treating with it. We're just not hearing anything about it.
Yeah. So I did not hear that, but if that was announced, this is welcome as a short-term relief for the sector. These guys, they really need it. They have, as you heard in my consultation, some guys, they have their children to send to school, others have their mortgages to pay, others have the support for their equipment and machinery for the whole sector. And so it's interlinked domino effect. And so a short-term relief is welcome. One of the problems I have with this government in particular is the issue of communication. That has been a major issue for me. I'm not going to sit here and just bash the government wantonly, because I understand that government cannot do it all, right? But I just feel that their communication is very, very poor. When we look at the whole issue of infrastructure development, the issue of the Grand Anse Road, the Grand Anse water project, I think the issue of the communication is really poor, and it's longing. And so we see the same thing in the fishery sector. The guys just don't know what is happening. Nobody's communicating with them. You might get a snippet after 2-3 months, but I don't think it's sufficient.
I want to give you one last thing to get comments on, and then Byron will come in, is the issue of, in my view, the crisis we have in the country with labor. Crisis from the standpoint of work ethic, capacity issues in all sectors, whether it be retail, construction, agriculture. Every sector in our country is now affected by labor shortages and our attitude to work. If your government was to come into power when the election comes, what would be your thoughts on how we could resolve this? You don't have to be short. It could be short, medium, and long, but we must have a plan, in my view, on my thinking, how we could resolve the labor issue. And you can't be asking our women to make 10 children.
It cannot be the starting point. But from my point of view, we have a skills issue. We have a skill shortage, but we don't have a talent shortage.
That's right.
Grenadians are able to step up to the plate in any area if they're given the right training and opportunity to do so. That said, we have to admit that there is an inherent cultural issue with the ethics that we bring to the workplace and what is necessary to drive us forward in this 21st century. But I believe that we can develop systems, adequate training put in place to get our workers up to speed. And in that regard, the government have a fundamental responsibility to engage the various stakeholders to formulate a plan to enhance the skills training of our local workforce, first and foremost, before we start looking at other areas for development.
Dr.
Adrian.
Fine, that's good. We come from the same community.
Yes.
Look, you've been a successful career in government and successful businessman also. And now you're making a paradigm shift, clearly.
Yes.
But maintaining certainly your business aspect. But I want to find out politically, how would you describe yourself as a conservative, a centrist, a social democrat, or what is a pragmatic Grenadian nationalist? How would you call yourself? Well, that's included. Where are you? How do you describe yourself politically here?
I've not filtered myself to think, but I would say that at heart, I would describe myself as a central conservative.
Central conservative.
Yeah.
So in saying that, what thinkers or leaders or experienced shape your political worldview?
To a certain extent, he's not a central conservative, but the current president of the United States has taken a position where he has put his country first on a path to the development as he sees it. For me, I would say I look at persons who have shaped the foundation for this country. And regardless of what people may say, we have to give, as you call it, Jackie's jacket. Dr. Keith Mitchell has played a tremendous role in shaping the foundation for which we stand on today. We have a responsibility as this generation to build on this foundation and not throw it away as some people may want us to do. You would hear conversation which says that he has not done anything for the country. I think this is false, this is inaccurate. We have lived 25 years under this man as Prime Minister in this country, and to take away the contribution he has made to this country is not good for us as a people.
So let me follow up this. You joined in the NNP, of course, at a time of, let's call it, generational transition. Yeah? Do you see yourself as part of the future leadership of the party?
We all have a responsibility to guide this party forward. Even getting involved says that we're now taking over the future direction as to where we want the party to go in this new era. Do I see myself as a future leadership? No, I see myself as part of a team willing to do the work that is necessary to rescue this country and to bring this country into an era of development that would be beneficial for all and not just some.
So in 2022, the NNP lost the election. What does the NNP need to change to win back public trust? Because clearly it lost it. It didn't win the election. So what has to change? What it has to do?
I think what the NNP is doing now is essentially what is necessary. Reconnect with the folks on the ground. Let's just face it. This is an organization that has won the complete trust of the government, 15-0 on 3 occasions. And so I think we need to formulate a program where we can reconnect with the people of Grenada, show them what is our vision for the development of the country. And I believe that in itself will go a long way.
So you want, as you mentioned,
listen to the people.
So you, as you mentioned, right, you want 15-0. I mean, it's amazing. And but you lost. What do you think went wrong? What is the leadership issue that went wrong here? What do you think was responsible for having lost that momentum and losing the election?
That is the essence of democracy, my brother. We've gotten to a stage maybe where the voters will have felt a certain level of disconnect. And so that has translated in the way that they, reacted at the polls. There could be many other issues. To be honest, I've not examined it. But my aim is to focus on the future. What has happened?
But the lessons of the past,
lessons of the past, yeah. lessons of the past will inform the future, and that is why I said we need to reconnect first and foremost with our folks on the ground.
So if the NNP forms the next government upcoming, let's say upcoming because it is going to come, right?
Yeah.
What ministry or policy area would you feel most competent to lead?
At the end of the day, it's a team decision. But I believe some of the areas I think that is critical for development is foreign direct investment, youth development. I've spent my years in the foreign service, as you know. I think that is my key area of expertise. And so working along with trying to attract foreign direct investment into the country, I believe at this point.
So the NDC is in government, but what has the current NDC government done well, in your view, and where has it failed, in your view?
As I said before, their communication with the people is lacking terribly. And I think that is showing up in the way the people are reacting. I think they have done well in terms of feeding off of a lot of the programs that the NNP has left in the pipeline. And
construction is doing well.
Yes, and because these are the facts. If you look at it, they have not brought any single project to the country, but they were able to pull those projects that the NNP has developed before leaving office, and they have converted it into development which they are taking credit for. And so kudos to them on that. But as we go along, we are seeing that they're not very communicative. We don't know where we are. We have a difficulty in getting updates on projects and programs, and many times the people are left in the dark.
Sorry, Byron. You know, recently it was brought to my attention, yes, they're doing the projects that would have come forward from NNP in those days.
Yes.
But from a communication point of view, what we're not hearing, and recently I was told that some of these projects are going outside of budget and running out of cost. and we're not hearing anything about it. So the issue is, you know, we have the road from Woodlands to connect back to the cliff. And that has been going on for quite a long time. But nobody telling us if it's cost overruns and what is the extent of the cost overruns. You know, and that is...
Chris, let me add something to that question you're asking him to make it a bit more comprehensive. You held... You held a consultation with contractors.
Yes.
You did, right? And of course, by doing that, you're looking at the construction sector, the infrastructure sector. So we hold that day. At the last press conference, it was earlier this month that the Prime Minister had, where he was given an update on infrastructural projects. He said that in going forward, the government will use what he referred to as design, build, and finance. This is DBF, which is a policy arm to understand of where you take on any huge project, you don't identify the money, but you're going ahead with it, noting that it's going to cost you significantly more because the risk has been transferred now to the contractor. He or she has to borrow the money, and the management of this method is very complex. In fact, as I said here, the World Bank has advised against this approach. But how do you interpret this mode of development in going forward? What are the up or the downside of it? And tie this back into what Chris said. I didn't make it more complex. I just add a little to it.
You made it more complex, but I'm prepared to respond as I see it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think the government has found itself in a serious issue of budget deficits. And they are taking this approach basically as an additional line of credit. You've been in business. You've certainly been associated with business. And I'm not going to sit here and, as some people, be so banal and say that the government is broke. But it seems to be an issue of credit. And so they transfer in that issue to third parties. At the end of the day, that approach, I believe, I've not read the World Bank report for sure, but I believe at the end of the day, it's more risky and certainly it's more expensive.
It is.
At the end of the day, it's the ordinary man, the ordinary taxpayer that will have to foot this bill. And so this is not a system I would encourage it any way, shape, or form. After this program, I'm going to try to read the World Bank report. But I can tell you, from my own point of view, being in business for over almost 20 years, it's going to be more expensive for the Grenadian people, for sure.
Yeah, I just want to stick on the construction for a little bit. One of the issues we're seeing also is that our local contractors have been significantly reduced in terms of the scope of projects they could attract.
Yes.
So when Quinn and Company left the construction sector, I was a big contractor that could attract projects, big size projects. Now we only have Creative Designs, Latouche, and we have, of course, a solution company here as well.
You know.
So the issue here is, when we talk about capacity, the government has not announced strategically, apart from this design, build, and finance, as an area to solve it. But what are we saying to our local businessmen who want to come into these projects? If you can't put up the bonds for big projects, you ain't getting nowhere.
And that is exactly what the government is saying. So the government is saying that the regular ordinary contractor is being left out, and they're going to bring in those guys who are able to afford. And I have a huge difficulty with that, a very huge difficulty. We need to change this approach. We need to find, as you know, the local contractor will have difficulty in going to a local financial institution to follow this model. We need to have a rethink of this on this policy, because eventually what you would have is a situation where these huge companies are going to come in, like the good folks at Reno, and they're just going to basically have their way. I had by the road, by the side meeting with some of my constituents in the Boucher-Joux area. And they've expressed to me a serious concern with this company, Reno. They have come into the Boucher-Joux area, and you may have seen, right on the roadway. And essentially, they are doing whatever it is they want, disregarding the local company. So it's Reno first, Reno second, Reno third. We have heard from what is happening at Woodford. And so could you imagine a situation where this new program by the government, which brings in these other international partners, what is going to happen, right? It's going to be a disaster for our local communities.
Well, we had the experience in the past of Consolidated Contractors International, when they came in as a foreign company and operated in Grenada, and at that time it was apparent that there wasn't enough control by government to understand the quality of service that we were getting and how we deal with that. Reno, of course, have been in the press regularly on fraud and other things. And you could argue that they come in with an asphalt plant that will be badly needed for construction of roads and repairs. And you could argue that they have a lot of equipment on the ground. A lot of companies may not do that or be able to do that. So they do have a play. The issue is, how does the quality control and the interaction with the influence in government operate? So I get into the point of asking you the question about governance and how you see that going forward. Not in construction, we have issues with agriculture, marketing board and all of that. How do you see yourself in your team and in your party going to approach the issue of governance, and how do we manage it in such a way that at the end of the day our country benefits not at huge cost but at reasonable cost?
All right. So
that is at the sector.
My brother, if we handle the smaller issues at the community level, we'll be able to tackle the bigger issues at the national level. What is happening is not the what. We need the asphalt production. Our issue is the how, the where, and the why. And so we need to engage again in another round of consultation with all the stakeholders. You know, I've been involved in this process for a long time, and recently we had an issue at the Grand Mall beach. By the way, when I was doing my research on this forum, interestingly, the episode that I came on is the But for whatever reason, we seem to negate that aspect of the consultation, where the community is left out. We need to bring that back. And for me, being in any government, being part of any government, I think that we need to re-engage the consultation with all the stakeholders, hearing from them. And at the end of the day, there would be a need for legislative reform. These companies must not feel that they can come into this country, because we are a sovereign country, and do as they feel and just totally neglect the persons that have lived in those communities for a number of years. I think that is insane and that is ridiculous, and it needs to be addressed.
Back on you and a little bit on this consultation. You know, we're famous in Grenada for saying we just consult.
Yeah.
And we consult, and then you may say analysis paralysis. The issue is, because when we had constitutional reform, we had many consultations.
Yes.
And some people don't turn up. If you didn't have a food and a bar, they ain't turning up.
Yes.
Right? That is a culture.
Yeah.
So consultations has its limit. I understand the fact that you must get the community involved to some degree, because it's them. You're living in with them and in them. But there is limitations to consultations for you to, in government, if you were to be in government, to get action. Because you can't keep consulting, nothing will happen.
True.
Because of the varying views. So you have to guide it. So my question is, you know, I hear we have to involve the people, but how do we get our people interested in getting conversations about things to them? And we see it many times happening over that if you don't invite You invite them in a community center to come and talk about gender-based violence.
Yeah.
And no man will show. Only women. You ain't getting the message across. And the issue is, how do we get our people to engage? That is the question.
It's called community empowerment. How will you achieve it?
When I started my journey for my doctoral degree, you know what I wanted to know? I just wanted to know how to start a business, operate a business, and be profitable. One of the aspects I learned is how we gather data, analyze data, and use data. So there is a process, all right? That said, we must formulate a plan we cannot leave out the community in no way, shape, or form. So I think we have enough competent people on the team to make sure that we cover this aspect of the consultation, where we can gather adequate data. I had an issue with the Grand Mall Beach on the Saul. And if you had followed what you just said, we had a situation where, could you imagine, the company involved was calling members of the community to vote against the issue, to voice their opinions, saying that the boulders can remain on the beach, right? And that is the first set of data that we got, because these people called in. But we are able to broaden the consultation, hear from everyone, and then make a determination as to the way forward.
So the thing I want to ask you on that same thing and the engagement of the people, your party has been presented now in NP, has a really good mix of young people, of females, and not so young. The issue is, it covers a wide spectrum. So the communication, to me, is going to, how young people will talk to young people, we in our age group may not.
Yes.
And the use of social media and other platforms, how will that help you to the engaged and get the feedback that you need to make the right decisions, or the best decisions for the country? Not necessarily right, but best.
I've heard from other organizations, which I'm not going to name here, they said that the only reason why some other side is getting is because we don't know who they are, and I guess so they're collecting data on who their people are and how they're getting. I think I want to be part of an organization where it's much different. Benefits for all. We have to develop a plan where we can get every category of the populace involved to give their feedback, because at the end of the day, you know, I've always said in other engagements, you know, at the end of the day, Adrian Joseph will survive. You know that? Byron Campbell will survive. Christopher Diali will survive, because we could make it. But think about the ordinary man on the ground who are going through these processes, right, and having that kind of difficulty. We must devise a plan to capture him, you know, to get him involved in the process for his own future development.
I know, but here's the thing. Youth unemployment is high. Why should young people trust politicians like yourself who are entering politics later in life?
I'm not sure I wouldn't say it's trust politician. I would say is try to secure the future. You know, my role, as I said, I've been doing this for all my life. And if you look at my history has been one of trying to motivate, not only motivate, but inspire persons to get involved. There's no specific formula why Adrian Joseph should be sitting here. It could be any young person. They must feel that sense of empowerment. And I would hope that when they look at our history and what we are saying to them, that they can feel that they can get involved in the process of at whatever stage. And yeah.
So Adrian, we have inequality, clearly.
Indeed, all over the world.
Right, but here we know. So what policies you're likely to support to reduce this inequality? Because we often go towards the GDP, it's growing, but the inequality on the ground, the unemployment, the young people situation remains dire. So what kind of policies are you going to really support to bring more equality or development to your community?
Youth unemployment, skills development, foreign direct investment, addressing the whole cost of living crisis issue. Those are the policies that I think that are necessary that will bring broad benefits to everyone.
Education, of course.
Education, of course, it ties into everything. I went to a forum where I engaged with some person from a particular country. I will not name them here. And I think one of the main issues for Grenada is our, not only our cost of doing business, but our bureaucracy level is just too high. And they were saying in their country, they have what they call a one-window policy. So if you go to, let's say, the port, for example, the customs, to clear this bottle, you go to this one window. Or if you want to renew your license, you go to this one window, and everything is sorted out in this one, with this one person. I think here the bureaucracy is just too high. We need to address this issue, these archaic laws, which is not doing us any justice at the end of the day. We need to modernize.
Okay. And part of us, Chris and I, of course, you're new in the political life.
I am new.
And so we want to test you, we want to know, and I want to go a little into geopolitics, foreign policy. Of course, you've worked extensively in this area, foreign affairs, protocol, this area. So this should be an easy one for you. So what should Grenada's policy towards Cuba and Venezuela be? Not alignment, solidarity, cautious diplomacy? Tell us where we should be in this particular situation. And given your senior position in the NNP, what would you advise? What would be we've not heard, by the way, I want to add this, any pronouncement from the NNP regarding this issue, in terms of a position, or not from the leader, not from anybody. So I'd like you, because of your experience there, where do you think we should be going? Or where would you advise your party to move as far as that direction is?
One of my advocacy in recent time has been the issue of the Grenadian students in the Republic of Cuba. I hold dear my friends in the Republic of Cuba, but the issue of the Grenadian students and people in the Republic of Cuba is sacrosanct for me. I think this is paramount. I would not sit here and come up with any position on how the NNP government, because I believe it has to be, again, I spoke about consultation, but diplomacy is very important in how the whole scope of geopolitics operate. And so, given our position in the hemisphere that we operate in, it has to be an issue of responsible diplomacy. And our responsibility at the end of the day, first responsibility at the end of the day must always be to the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and PD Martinique. My friend Byron, you have to remember that the country has a diaspora which is quite possibly 5 times the size of those that are residing here. And we have to take that into consideration whenever we're making any sort of decision. We don't have the luxury of hiding from the issue or when we're in government, or running away from the issue, or not addressing the issue. We have a responsibility to first consult and give a report to the Grenadian people understanding the weight of our decision, it affects far and wide. So I would say at this point that, of course, we leave it to the government who is leading us through this particular time. But for me, we have, I would say, to be very cautious and use the tools that are available in diplomacy.
Let me ask you something. You know, when you look at this government and youthfulness of the leadership, foreign affairs requires delicate negotiations, and that requires people with a certain level of experience. NNP is fortunate to have elder statesmen who have been around a long time, and it's always disappointing when we don't use them because of tribal politics to understand how to, and I'm coming to the issue of lobbying and having connection with countries where you could have the backdoor discussions. As you know, in foreign affairs, that is major. And I always believe that the fishing thing, for example, if you had used the right lobbyists, this problem could have been resolved. Yes, it may have cost the government X amount of money, but the problem is, the issue is, if we could have gotten it resolved quicker for the benefit of our trickle down to the average fisherman, and as you say, the multiple effects it have when the money comes. And you sometimes wonder if the experience factor is contributing for us not getting positions in the foreign affairs as we ought to. How do you see the mix you have now in NNP with all your elder statesmen, and how that can help in the negotiation process in because foreign affairs matters are getting far more complex than we knew 10 years ago with Donald Trump and his attitudes. So we have always been a friend on the US. There's a delicate balance again. We have Canada, we have, how do you see our elder states people being used to help in maneuvering in foreign exchange, foreign affairs sphere?
I think, as you said, the government has a youth leadership, which maybe they might be proud of. But I think the benefits, the greater benefits, the greater asset in the NNP is that we have an excellent mix of youth and experience. And that, my friend, is what will guide you. As you know, in any sector, in any organization, you must have, when you go for any job, the first thing they ask you is your level of experience. And so I think that blend of experience and youthfulness is even more important in navigating this complex area.
Sorry, I'm just getting notice here that we're out of time.
Yeah.
Sorry. And so I would ask you to, you have the last word, you know, to make your closing statements.
You know, when we got involved in this process, for us, it has always been about people. And when we got involved in this process, we were not expecting the overwhelming support and outreach from the people. And so we were encouraged by this. We welcome all the support, all the encouragement. But in addition to this, we want to hear more and more from the various sectors, the ordinary man, you know, what is it you want us to do to guide this process forward? I don't believe it's about me, certainly not about me. Dr. Mitchell, who we hold dearly, has given his contribution, and he's there for guidance and advice on any various particular subject, and we welcome that. But we want to engage more the ordinary man, the ordinary Grenadian, to hear from them, what is it you want us to do, and to commit to that style of development, a development of listening, engagement, and consultation. And that is the principle that Adrian Joseph is willing to stand on. And I'm sure the majority of the leadership of the new National Party.
Good, thank you. I want to ask Chris to give some final statement, but just before I go to Chris to end, something that Chris has advocated for, is advocating for, debates with the different candidates. Would you be willing to debate the person you're running against or anybody else on issues in an election period?
We are here to give service to the people. And if the people are calling for debates, we are willing to step
So
to
you'd
the
be
plate.
willing to?
I am willing to debate on the issues that I believe in.
Chris?
Oh, well, I'm so happy to hear you say that. But at the end of the day, Adrian, I want to first of all thank you for making yourself available to come on the program and to congratulate you as well on becoming the candidate for the constituency that Dr. Mitchell held. I believe going forward as a people, and I hear you have said it, the tribalism is not something we need to encourage. When they have the weekly meetings, when they come and meet the ministers in the various constituencies, it's sometimes always the party in power people that come, and we don't see the other side. But all of us as people, I always say, when the election finish on the day, and we know who forming the government, everything else knows about Grenada.
Indeed.
Not about who win and who lose. It's about Grenada, because we all Grenadians living here. And I hope, and I am encouraged, because I know you a long time as well, that you will bring those principles to the fore. And I want to thank you for making yourself available to be in politics. It's not an easy road, but I think you know that.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Dr. Joseph. Viewers, that's all the time we have. We want to thank you for being with us. Let me thank our technical staff, management. We'll see you here next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye.